Look what he says in John chapter 15. I'm going to read from 1 to 8. We'll come back and we'll break it down. But stay with me. Here's what he says. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Verse 4, abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit. So you will be my disciples. I want to talk to you guys today from the platform of a thriving life is a life that is close to God. A thriving life is a life that is close to God. You cannot sustain, you cannot thrive in life unless you stay plugged in. The concept of abiding, this word that we see here in abiding means, when he says, I am the vine, you are the branches, he who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. Without me you can do nothing. There's a lot to unpack there. He uses this word abiding, which we don't use in our everyday language nowadays. But this abiding means to remain. It means to dwell. It means to stay put. But in this context, it means to stay put where God is, to be where God is, to do what God is doing when he's doing where he's doing it. That means to abide. It means to remain in his word, like his scripture, like to be there. It means to be in a place where his message is being preached. It means to be in a place where his name is being praised, where he's being worshiped. It means to rest and dwell in his presence. And in keeping in line with the first example I gave you, it means to stay plugged in. The truth is, as I've said, there is nothing, and this implies our lives as well. It implies your career. It implies your marriage. It implies the relationship with your children. It implies the relationship with your parents. It implies anything that you set out to do. There is nothing that can be sustained forever without being plugged in. Nothing. And we live in a society right now that everything we got is Wi-Fi. If it's not Wi-Fi, I don't know what it is. But the quicker we can disconnect from cables or hide cables as if cables are a bad thing, the better off we're going to be. But the reality is, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you hide the cables of your 80-inch TV screen coming down the wall, plugging in. They're still there. And I don't care where you go with your phone. At some point, you got to plug it back in because the battery is unsustainable without the charge. And I don't care if you come to me with gas-powered tools. At some point, you got to pour more gas in, find some more gas because it is unsustainable without a charge. But if you get that same tool and it's got a cable attached and you plug in, guess what? You can go on and on and on and on, and nothing stops. Because there is a reality. There is nothing that is sustainable unless it remains plugged in. You can sustain yourself for a minute. But if you don't remain plugged in, you will not sustain yourself for an eternity. I would just put out there today that some of the issues that we go through, and some of our moments of weakness where we are lacking in strength, some of our moments of confusion where we are lacking in clarity, some of our moments of authority because we are lacking in authority are the result of us lacking in connectivity. call me a liar if you will. But if you have ever known God, and you have ever walked with God, and if you ever find yourself in a season that you are powerless, it is because you have disconnected from God. You are no longer abiding in His presence. That does not mean that the abiding is not God's will. It is His will that we abide in Him, and His word abides in us. But we have free choice. We have free will. We have the ability to say, yeah, I don't want to be plugged in today. And God's like, cool. You don't want to be plugged in? That's on you. But there's an issue that comes with that. There's an issue that comes with that. Because if we go to John chapter 15, where we were, and we look back at 5 to 6, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. That is a promise of God. We'll come back to that. But He tells us without Him we can do nothing. Okay? What that means, or what that implies, is that without God we can do nothing of any eternal significance. Because to read it otherwise would mean different. It would mean, well, what are you talking about? I got up today, I went to work, I put on my clothes. You tell me I couldn't put on my clothes without Christ? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you can do nothing with eternal significance without Him. Meaning whatever we do now is all temporary. We will do nothing that has an impact without Him. I've come to the realization in my life that I can't be a father that can impact my children without Him. Lord knows that I don't possess the human wisdom to guide my 4 kids that are always trying to figure something out. Lord knows I can't be the husband that I'm supposed to be without Him. I can't have an eternal impact on my wife. I can't do it. Believe me, I tried. And she lets me know if I don't hit the spot, if I fail, and she lets me know. In her subtle, nice way. Hashtag not so subtle, because you know my wife. I love you, babe. There's nothing true of true godly importance that can get done without Him. Verse 6, if anyone does not abide in me, look at this, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. Now, if we read this on first reading, some of us might get scared with that. We're like, what are you talking about? I thought I was with God. What are you talking about? He's going to break me off and cut me off. That's not what it's saying here. We need to learn how to read Scripture. Look what He says. He says, if anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch. Stay with me, because I went through about 10 different verses roughly to be able to make sure that the versions lined up and that they all match, so we don't have a failure of interpretation when I give you what I'm going to do, because that's what we like to do. We want to give you the truth. He says, cast out as a branch. Other versions say like a branch. He does not say cast out because you are a branch. He says as a branch. So what that means is we see a metaphorical reference here. He says, you will be cast out. Well, that still sounds scary, because the word cast out means we're going to be thrown out. So what do you mean? I thought if I was saved in God, I'm good. I thought I was going to heaven. Now you tell me I'm going to be cast out if I don't abide? Stay with me. He says it would be as a branch. So just like a branch that is bearing no fruit, you would be cast out. So then we have to go to the definition of cast out. Have I lost you yet? You still with me? All right. So when he says cast out, this word cast out means to give over to one's care, uncertain about the result. So the cast out doesn't mean to discard. That's not what it means. He says that if we no longer abide in Him, we'll be as a branch. It's going to be put to the side. That's what He's saying. You want to do you. That's what He's trying to say. And that's a principle that we see throughout Scripture. God is about free will. He will allow you to make choices because He will allow you to live consequences that you have to live, with the hope that those consequences and the correction that comes therefrom would then bring you back to Him. I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather not get consequences. I'd rather just stay in the house. I'd rather just abide in His goodness, abide in His presence. I don't want to taste what I have to taste, which is sour and bitter, to then realize, man, I had it good. Let me come back to the house where even the pigs had it better than I.